enemy is Satan. I mean, it's, and the reality of it is we're trying to fix spiritual issues with man-made ways, and that's really erroneous. You cannot work with, spiritual matters without, spirituality, and without, an effective relationship with God in Christ. He's the one who exorcises demons. I'm not going to just exorcise demons. That's not I don't have a collar on. I don't even have shoes on. So the thing is like, what are we thinking? And if we're looking for relationships, we want to start with reaching out. And that's the hard part, because people will reject this. They're afraid. But think about it. We have to move into what we're afraid of. We have to close the gap. If we are not close and we're far away, which is why this has happened, we've distanced people spiritually, we've distanced people emotionally, and now all this was allowed to happen. This all happened because we didn't have relationship. And I'm not saying it's that simple, but I am saying it's a great place to start is by literal dialogue and to rebuild what Christ created and make it better. It has to be better and more beautiful than it's been, at least in the last 100 years, because things are slipping away. We've missed the mark. People have had catastrophic abuses. They've been doing things that are incredibly disordered. But the thing is, if you read the Bible, we got, 3 big players that we all say we love and respect, and somehow they're in the Bible, right?
Who's that?
Yeah. Well, you got Moses, he was a murderer. You got, David, he was a murderer and he was a womanizer, Well, we sing his psalms every Sunday. And then we got St. Paul, and he was a murderer. And these guys were straight up murderers, and we're reading from their texts, and we are being inspired from them, inspired by them every week. So if God can use these men, why are we quitting on people? And part of it is God doesn't quit on us. I sure as heck hope he doesn't quit on me. So I think it's dangerous. It's dangerous to just judge and be afraid or attack, because what's going to happen is the fears are just going to keep growing. They're not going away. We have to engage. And so that is a big thing, but it's hard for people to engage if they don't have a relationship with Christ. And that's why I say you start there. The other thing is again, to pray as a family, to pray as a group, to make sure that we're coming up with a stronger narrative. We have to have a better story than bad things happen in the Catholic Church. Priest did this. Not every priest does these things. Virtually none of the priests really do this. We aren't going into the school system in America and looking at how many people are abusing our kids in the school system. The statistics are staggering with that.
Right, yeah, one of the things people are saying is, well, a lot of the priests just look the other way and let all the stuff go on, so that maybe they're not bad, but they're just weak or letting it happen. That's another narrative going, around, and how would we address that?
Well, the narrative that people are weak, the narrative, the reality of it is that people are weak. We literally know way more about, at least in our diocese, and we're going to continue to know this, is that we know way more about our Catholic Church and the wrongdoing of the men in the Catholic Church. We want to know more. A lot of people are like, well, I want to know more. But the reality of it is we also know more than most people know about almost any other business. You don't know everything that everybody's doing. You couldn't pull that off in any business. But somehow we think that we're entitled to know everything about everything.
Right.
What? Because it's not a business. And the thing is that, again, to have relationships, there has to be an increase in credibility. So if we want people to look strong, or we want people to do things, in a lot of ways, people want to have a plan. And if there are clergy watching this, or there are people in authority of the Catholic Church that are going to ever see this video, my thought process is that we literally need to build a plan that addresses this, so that we have taken responsibility. Somebody needs to take responsibility and say, this is what we're going to do, this is what we learned, this is why it's not going to happen again. And it needs to be laid out so that everybody knows what to look for, what the church is doing to rebuild credibility. Because people are traumatized, and that means they need to know what to expect, and they need to see people follow these things through. Otherwise, they don't feel safe. And rightfully so, if they don't feel safe, they're going to go back to the old narrative, which is the church is all screwy, it's full of pedophiles, and these bishops are bad guys, and they're all running rings of pedophiles, because that's what people think. And then some people don't think anything. But it's, and I said something earlier about this, is, a lot of people are worried about shark attacks when they go to the beach. But the likelihood you're going to get bit by a shark, not so great. But when you go to the vending machine at work, you realize that the vending machine at work kills and maims more people than sharks do. But we just think of Jaws. So we're like, well, I'm going to get eaten. But when you shake the vending machine, you don't think anything. And so we need to get a better story, and we need good men of faith to step up and say, I'm taking responsibility. I'm going to be responsible for this plan. I'm going to do something so that we can move in. Both sides need to move in. It's not just one, both. And they need to not be afraid of each other. Okay? So I don't know. I think that's a really big component, though. We need to take responsibility. People need a plan. They don't necessarily care specifically about the truth, because it may sound great, but the truth doesn't mean that they're going to do anything different. Yeah, this is the truth.
Right.
Well, now that's never going to be enough.
Right.
Yeah. I want to know, what are you going to do? Now, if the person that that has to make decisions takes responsibility, it's a 2-for-1. It's a 2-for-1. I've taken responsibility, and now people have less and less to talk about and less to be afraid of, and that story can dissolve. And so we need to close the gap. In the absence of information, fear grows. That's why the media is loving this. In the absence of information, we're the only storytelling animals. We will tell and retell and horrifically tell and build upon and scandalize.
It's the telephone game.
Yeah, it's the telephone game, and people will make money off of it. People's reputations will be ruined, and sin will continue to get spread. And obviously, the truth nobody can stop. It will come out. It always does. Okay, it's not Watergate, So yeah.
All right. Well, then, the most important question then is, after we're making change, what do we do about and for the victims? Really, at this point, what about them, and how do we help them?
Well, obviously, with the victims need people to obviously, a couple things. When people experience being victimized in general, one of the things that they all ask is why. And when people hear these stories, whether they want to or not, they think, why did this happen? Why did God allow this to happen? Why did the bishop allow this to happen? Why did this guy do this? Why did he take the mitre and crozier? What made this man who did all these horrible things decide it would be a great idea to be a cardinal or whatever? But asking why makes us more and more like victims. It makes us more and more, helpless. We want victims to be empowered. That means we have to give them a story that they can actually participate in. All victims need a future, a positive future of their life that they can envision, that helps them to make sense of the past. Many victims want to reconcile with the church. Some don't, rightfully so. They're done. They don't want to be around anybody. But other people, they still have a desire to be close to the Lord. They still have a desire to do things. And I think we need people to have the freedom to tell their story and to do whatever it is that they need to do to heal. And at the same time, we need to give them something to plug into. We need to give them a positive future vision for their life and invite them into a new experience. A new experience, because without new experiences, well, all you got is the old memories. And we want people to be able to create something new. And some people that are victims don't want to talk about it. A lot of people that have been traumatized, they don't want to talk about it. They would much rather like to connect back to something that's useful. And so again, what we can do as people, in many ways, is we can pray for the victims, we can talk to them, we can invite them. But again, in terms of, and obviously the church is going to give them money, but for many people, money is not what people want. Again, people want relationship. They want to feel valued. They want to feel like they've been heard. Sometimes they want to be just validated, to know that what happened, and people know, and people care. And so whatever it is, every victim will be different. But what I will say is, both for the victims and for anybody that's helping in this time of crisis, stop asking why. Because why is a question that only God can answer. And unfortunately, he may be quiet for a while on this. What I do know is all of the saints and all of the people that are going to participate in the healing of the victims are going to stop asking why and start asking how. How do we make this better for them? How do we make the church a place that's safe? How do we make clergy feel like they're respected and loved? How do we make sure that people understand the value of the Eucharist, the value of the sacraments? How do we communicate to the rest of the population and people that don't know about Catholicism that this is a dynamic and beautiful thing that should transform the world? It has transformed the world, you know? So we need to start asking how. Remember, the people that are most spiritually mature don't ask why. If you ask why, you got a whole lot of problems. And you're going to be feeling helpless. We want to get people to start to do things and generate something new. So, you know, again, this is a systemic issue. There's not just one thing that's happened. 75 years of church history, at least in our diocese, and around the United States, of things that haven't been dealt with, processes that never really existed, things that were never checked, and an incredible neglect of prayer, an incredible neglect of the, to the degree of the respect for the Eucharist, you know. And so of the things that are our power core, the things that are our engine, if we don't take care of the engine, the whole car doesn't go very far. The whole thing doesn't work. It's almost like if we had a beautiful set of flowers, a beautiful bouquet, right? And we put it in water. It looks beautiful, right? Well, we took those flowers and we took them out of the water. We took all those beautiful flowers. We took all those great men. We took all of those great men of faith, the clergy, you know, ourselves. We pulled all these people out of the water. And then what happens is the bouquet looks good, but then eventually, guess what? It dies. So we need to plunge the bouquet back into the water. It needs to go back into what it is if it's going to come back to life. We just can't just leave it out there. You're not going to solve this issue. You're not going to just be able to cut off the head of whatever and expect that it's going to go. This is not that type of cancer. It's not like that. You can't just remove the whole liver and expect the body of Christ to live. You have to make sure that you're very selective about what you do and how you move with this. You know, remember who the enemy is. It isn't that man that you think it is. He might have done some horrific stuff, but it's not a man that you're up against. You know, so I appreciate you asking those questions, though.
Thank you for taking the time to talk.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.